Hello, good morning, and welcome to Limitless, the show that gives you love and inspiration on a Saturday morning. And today we have an amazing guest on the show. We have Wendy L. Alexander, who is a cross cultural consultant and international business strategist. She's going to be talking to us about her testimony, her life's journey, and just giving us a bit of nuggets of a wealth of nuggets as to how we can navigate our lives successfully. So, without further ado, welcome, Wendy L. Alexander on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's an honor. Okay, so first and foremost, we know that you are an international consultant. You've done so much, and of course, you're extremely successful, especially with the book that you are featured in, and of course, magazines. As I see behind you there, the magazine that's there. You're
Yes.
doing numerous different things on a global scale. Can you tell us first and foremost, or maybe tell me firstly,
Okay.
what is a cross-cultural consultant and international business strategist exactly?
So I work a lot, well, probably 98% overseas. And so I'm from the United States. And so what happened was I honestly fell into that.
Yeah.
And that's part of my journey. And so what I do is I work with organizations on cross-cultural training, cultural
Mhm.
diversity. Also, I have also now mixed it in with mental health. So I do cross-cultural mental health as well, because I think it's so important, especially as today, as you see so many people coming from overseas, the refugees,
Yes.
and how do you work with them? They need mental health services, but they're not going to be able to have the same plan that maybe you and I would have because you have to relate it to the culture. And
Yes.
so once you're able to relate it to the culture, right, and then you're able to respect them, they're going to open up to you. And
Yeah.
so during that time, that's the reason why I was like, that's it. And people kept calling me and they would say, I heard you was a cross culture consultant. And I was like, really? And then I said, you know what? I study it. And that's all I study culture. I love it. I do. All
Yeah.
cultures, I study it. And so that's pretty much how that came about. So basically, studying the culture, understanding it, learning it, sharing it
Yeah.
with everyone else.
Okay, so tell us how you got involved in that. I know that your testimony is quite a powerful one, and you have been through
Thank you.
so much. Let's start from your early childhood memories, and we work from there on, and then just to really find out, because I really do believe that when you go through the journey with somebody, their life's
Hmm.
journey, you get to understand the essence that's within them, that nuggets, and or
Yes.
at least a bit of it, and you're able to really draw out the something for yourself, food for thoughts,
Yes. I,
that
I
can
totally
process
agree.
more.
I
So
totally
tell us
agree.
about your childhood experiences and
Mhm.
how you grew into being who you are now.
So it's funny that you asked that because I honestly did not share my journey like I'm sharing with you now up until 2010 when I did the book Tear the Veil with my amazing sisters, and we shared our stories inside of this book.
Yes.
And my testimony was that I was this, a child who was pretty much only child, very spoiled, but not spoiled to the point that I wasn't giving and loving and caring, right? And so my mother at the time, every now she was a single parent, and then of course she got remarried. But during that time, I was going through some things myself once I became a teenager.
Yes.
And I started dating like teenagers do. You think you're in love, right? And I ended up having an ex boyfriend who became very abusive,
Mm,
mentally and physically. And again, because I was my mother's only child, she was working to take care of me. I did not want to share what I was going through with her.
yeah.
I thought I would be a burden to her. And so as I continued to go through this abusive relationship for probably about 2 years up until my senior year, is when it really got bad. And I
Yeah.
always tell people, they were so excited about going to the prom and graduating, and I was like smiling, but behind I was hurting and I was scared. And so I
Mhm.
was just like, I had a lot going on from him being physically abusive, also mentally abusive to the point that I tried to commit suicide.
Mm,
And I didn't try to commit suicide one time. I tried to commit suicide 6 times.
mm,
And so that last time is when I ended up in a hospital. And then that's when my mother, she found out, but she still didn't know everything because she was hurting. Then I was like, well, how can I tell my mother and she's hurting right now? And I share that part of it because there's so many teenagers today that are going through things. And now you have technology. Can you imagine? How are you doing today? I'm fine. and you don't know if they're really fine. And so my mother was face to face, and my mother always talked to me, but I just couldn't share that part with her.
Yeah.
And then continued to try to get out the relationship. Was getting ready to go to college. I lied to him and said I was going to school in state. I ended up going out of state. He found out the day before I was going to go and held a gun to my head.
What?
Yes, and said that he was going to kill me. And then from there, I ended up going to school in Norfolk State, just really to get away from him. Didn't know anything about school, had no clue. I was just trying to get away from him. And my mother asked me, "Why do you want to go here? Where did you hear?" Oh, I just want to go. And that's why I was going. I was running.
Mm.
He followed me there. He chased me up there. He sat outside my dorm. He would be out in the rain. Ended up coming up there holding another gun to my head. We finally went to court, and that's when I was able to get a restraining order, and they
Yeah.
said he had to stay away from me, but they didn't ask him where he was going to be staying. He actually got stationed in Norfolk. I ended up leaving because he was there, going
Yes.
back to North Carolina Central University.
Yes.
And so, I ended up, of course, getting support therapy, and as what African Americans, we usually say, nope, don't get therapy. You don't need it. Keep it in the family. Go tell your grandma or somebody. I actually went and did some on my own because I was like, this is just too much for me to handle, and I don't want to go down that dark road when I was a teenager trying to commit suicide again. And so I ended up going to school. I ended up graduating from North Carolina Central University. Then from there, I ended up going to get my master's. Now working on my PhD in health psychology as well. And I was working in the mental health system for
Mm.
years with children
Yes.
and adults. And I was the person who always wanted to fight for these girls. I actually resigned for a company because they told me if I continued to go to her house, and she was in therapy to foster care, and I didn't want her to disrupt the placement. And I
Mm.
was I was 9 months pregnant with my daughter, and I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because she was doing so well in this home.
Mm.
And I said, I have to make sure she's okay and she's successful. I ended up resigning from that company because they told me, well, you can only go at 8 o'clock or you're going to have to resign. I said, the bus comes before then. And I left. And the reason why I was trying to help her was because she was me. She was
Mm.
me. She was me. And so I continued to work with kids in those services. And through those years, no one ever knew my journey and my story. But
Yes.
people always knew I had a fight in me. And why is she advocating for these kids? What is it that why did she do this? And then in 2018 is when Dr. Princess Fumi Hancock brought us together to write the book, Tear the Veil. And that's when I
Mm.
became the fearless visionary. And I struggled writing my story. And I tell people that because I think people, especially people who have trauma or something going on with them, that they struggle to tear. You struggle because you're also scared of judgment,
Yeah.
right? And that people are going to judge you. And for me, that's what it was. Because if you think about it now, up until before 2018, you saw me as this African American woman who was traveling the world, right?
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, boom, that's what you did, you know?
Mm.
And so when we first started writing the book, I wanted to talk about business. I said, that's my story. My story is business, right? And she said, mm-mm. And I knew it was nothing but God because she didn't know. And even though we were very close, she was my mentor. She said,
Mm.
no, there's something else there. You're not saying something. And I never told her either.
Yeah.
And she got it out of me. And once I was able to write that story, I felt a relief. I felt like I didn't have to pretend. I felt like I could just be me, that I
Mm.
didn't have to have this facade, this mask on anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and she actually made us share our story on Facebook. Can
Mhm.
you imagine? And so, of course, tears are still out there today.
Wow.
And I would never forget this young lady who sent me a message on Facebook. And she said, if you had not shared your story, I would have committed suicide tonight.
Amazing.
She said,
Wow.
so you saved me. And that's when I said, I got to continue to share my story. And so then I said, oh, you know what? I want people to really understand that I am this entrepreneur that see traveling the world, right? But I also have a past, and I had to get here, and my past is what got me here. And
Yes.
so when people ask me all the time, well, how did you start in Dubai?
Mm.
I did start on business. I did. I started, went over there, My husband was actually working in Afghanistan. I said, I'm not going there. So we got to figure this thing out. Because I'm not going there.
Yeah.
Then he said, come to Dubai. Now think about this. 20 years ago, who was really talking about Dubai? Like people really wasn't talking about going to Dubai, doing things.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I don't want to go there either. And then finally I went one day, and I'll never forget, I'm 5'4", my husband's 6'7", and I said, I'm gonna have a business here. I'm gonna have a business in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. And he said, you do know this is the Middle East, right? And you are a black woman. And I said, yes, what are you saying? And I said, oh, it sounds like a challenge. Oh, I'm really gonna have one now. So
Mhm.
so I ended up later getting a contract, probably not even a couple months later, doing business in Dubai. I started training the Dubai police, some of the government, and also the royal family,
Yeah.
and no clue what I was doing. None. I just knew that, listen, if God was going to take me there and
Mhm.
put me there, he's going to help me figure it out. I
Yes.
knew I was there, and I think a lot of times we feel like we have to know all the answers, right? That we
Mhm.
can't start until everything is perfect. I did not know what I was going to do. I didn't know I was going to train. I just knew he told me that this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
And so once I started training and working over there, what transpired also is that I was disconnected a little bit from the US, which was good for me,
Yes.
because I needed to really, really just find Wendy. And I always say the Middle East saved me. You
Yeah.
know,
Yes.
that's when things started changing for me, even for my faith.
Mhm.
Of course, they pray 5 times a day, right, to Allah. Well, I said, okay, well, I'm going to pray 5 times to my God. So
Yeah.
I started to really be more disciplined. They taught me how to be disciplined. My
Discipline.
Muslim sisters and brothers taught me how to be disciplined within my own faith. They
Yeah.
would sit beside me. They would pray to Allah, and I would be the Christians, and we
Mhm.
prayed together. And they taught me how to pray.
Mhm.
'Cause I didn't. I thought I knew how to pray, and they taught me how to pray. They said during Ramadan you're going to do Ramadan, and you could do it. Pray to your God. And
Mhm.
then when it got to the fasting, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna give up Coke, right? Remember how we do that? I'm gonna give up. They were like, oh no, you can't drink anything. You can't put anything in your mouth
Mhm.
from sun up to sundown.
Yes.
I then became disciplined, right?
Yeah.
I became very disciplined, and I said, I can do this, and I did it. I do Ramadan every year now,
Mhm.
and I had a lot of pushback from my Christian brothers and sisters, unfortunately, because they felt that I, number one, shouldn't have been in the Middle East. Number two, that I should not practice in Ramadan. I mean, I said why, but I get a lot of that. But I feel like it shouldn't matter, right?
Mhm.
It really
Mhm.
shouldn't matter. We should be able to pray together, regardless of your culture, your religion. We should be able to pray together, and that's a message that I always send out everywhere that I go. That I can sit beside my brothers, my sisters, in any type of nationality and pray with them. It doesn't mean that we have to pray to the same God. Who cares? As long as we're able to pray together. And so I continue to do that, which helped me build on having more businesses and contracts overseas. And I was working in Dubai, continued to do Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, and just traveling. And then God said, well, now it's time for you to help somebody else. And then
Mhm.
now you know what to do. You've been here long enough. You're going on what I think it was like 10 years. You can do this now. And then that's when I said, I want to help my sisters because I don't see anybody like me. I would look around the airport and I would say, they don't look like me. And that's who I'm supposed to help. But God, how am I supposed to help them? What am I supposed to do? And then what I started doing was I just went back to my journal and then I started creating classes and I did training overseas and it turned into cross cultural training overseas. And I turned to business, do it. I couldn't get the name right, but I knew what I was supposed to be doing, business overseas. And then I started training women online to
Mhm.
help them start their businesses. And then from there, we went to doing businesses. And I noticed that women still would not leave the country. I said, why won't y'all leave the country? Just leave the country. But they wouldn't leave. But they would say, I really want to do business globally. They would take the class and they would still be there. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to create something else. So God gave me, well, I was actually take that back. A lady that was in my class, Denise, actually came up with this name and she said, you need to create the Global Success Society. And I said, oh, I like that. And so I created that, which became a networking group for women. But also inside of that, I said, we're going to have events and you're going to have to sign that you're willing to travel out this country, because I needed to get them out of the country. So then I started having international events overseas in Dubai, where I brought women together from all over the world, where they came together with different cultures on purpose. I make sure, and then they came together. They were able to do business in the conference, as well as become international speakers. And so I did that for a while, and then from there we went on to having uh, trainings, doing businesses. I'm sorry, doing events locally and both globally in Global Success Society. And then from there, I continued to do business all over and just doing a lot of speaking engagements and keynote speaking. And now, present day, God is amazing, because I really thought I was going to continue to do this business, right? I'm supposed to take women overseas, and I'm supposed to continue to build and expand. And what I end up doing is I'm still doing that. But my present day is that I'm doing more of the cross cultural training, helping people who are working with children and adults that are either from Muslim countries, maybe they're from Africa, maybe they're from India, and understanding that you have to know the culture in order to support someone with mental health services. So that's
Mm.
what I'm doing today.
Oh wow! Thank God that there is a light in dark places.
Oh,
And when I say,
mm-hmm,
most definitely, when we talk about dark places, meaning the places of people whose hearts are so passionate for God, but need someone to direct them as to which is the true God.
that's right.
We look
Mm,
at Apostle Paul, um, going into Corinthians and basically saying, "Listen, I see that you have a shrine with numerous gods there.
mm-hmm,
They're all there, but there is one that has no name.
mm,
And come, sit down. Let's talk about that one that
right.
has no name." And I think that as God uses you and builds you up and brings you to that place of perfection in Him, your light will shine so bright that they will see
Mm-hmm,
that He is the way, the truth, the life. So I don't think that you being in an environment like that is that bad, because if God is guiding you all the way,
mm-hmm,
I think sometimes it's a case of just like, Lord, show me
mm-hmm,
what's the other thing, the other
right,
foundations here that I need to shift.
right.
How can I be that burning light for them to, but
And that's what it was.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm, that's
Thank
true.
God for your ministry. Can we look
Mm-hmm,
at we're looking at, I know you spoke a lot about the cross-cultural
mm-hmm,
um issues that a lot of refugees face, and then obviously women, and the issues
mm-hmm,
that, in reflection to what you went through in your teenage years, and what a lot of women are still going through, this oppression, whether it be mental or
mm-hmm,
physical, and often is spiritual. The
mm-hmm.
root of
The
it
truth.
all, it's always going to be spiritual. But how do you think that with the mental limitations upon their life, how does it now link with the business consultancy? How do you think it affects them going into business, and
Mm-hmm,
why is it important? Let's look at
mm-hmm,
the why.
mm-hmm.
Why is it important for Christians, for people to become entrepreneurs and and start off businesses? Why?
Number, it's our purpose. We
Mm,
have a purpose, and a lot of times what I found when I work with women and I'm doing consulting with them, I'll say, well, what do you like to do? What are your skills? And I've
mm,
had some women to say, I don't have any skills. Yes, you do. Do you have a job? Yes.
mm,
Okay, well, we're gonna take those same skills and you can do something on your own. So that now that you can have your own, because it's a different feeling when you're working. I've been in organizations where I became the CEO. And once I reached that level, and sometimes it was quick, like in 6 months, I didn't have that journey. It was always quick. And so that told me, I said, God has something else for me. I'm not supposed to be in these positions. That's why I get bored, because
yeah,
I can elevate so fast. So why not take what I'm able to do for these organizations and create my own? So number one, I have my own money. Number two, I control my own money.
yeah,
Also, I'm creating generational wealth at the same time, and I'm leaving a legacy for my children. There's no, and I always tell people it's nothing wrong with working, it's for someone else,
yeah,
but you still should have your own. I believe in, you could have a 9 to 5, but you have your own, because part of my other part of the journey, which is the reason why we went overseas in the first place, is because we went through a time when my husband and I was very young and married, really struggling, like struggling, okay, and struggling to the point where I'll never forget looking out the window and the car was repossessed. I
Okay.
never, forget the time we had to go live with family, right?
Mm,
So we've been there where we lost our jobs and had nothing, everything, lost the house, everything. And when you go through something like that, it makes you think they had control of us.
mm,
Had we had our own, maybe we wouldn't have been in a situation, or at least had, yes, working, but still had our own.
mm,
And that's when I learned that. I was just like, I feel like people have control over you when you don't have your own. You
mm,
can't control your life because if you don't have money in the bank and it's your business, that's your fault. That's your fault, right? But if you're working for someone, they dictate whether or not you have a raise and when you come and go and how much money you make and when you leave.
yeah.
And so when that happened to us, I always say, people laugh. I say the American dollar just isn't loyal. And I will never trust it again. I said it
Mm,
will always be my plan B or C and never my A.
yeah.
And I'll never forget that. I was 20, I don't know, my daughter's 25, so 23 years ago,
Mhm,
and never look back. I always
mhm,
make sure, and and my husband, I'm more of the go getter, and
mhm,
my husband just like, I'll support you, whatever you need. But
yeah.
I'm the one might have about 10 things going on at one time to figure out how to make this work, to be honest. And so
Mhm,
once we went through that, and that's why he ended up going overseas, is because he got the job, and he ended up having to sacrifice and be away from his family. And I talk about that too, because
mm,
sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do, and it might mean that you have to make those sacrifices.
mhm.
So he went when my children were young, and so he would come home only every 30 days out of 90 days
Oh
for
my goodness.
18 years.
Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
right. So that's why I ended up going overseas
Mm,
and I lived in Dubai for 6 years because he was in Afghanistan. Once the kids went to college, it was easier,
mm,
but we sacrificed, we did a lot of sacrificing because we had lost everything. And we was like, we were just like, this is it. I'm, s- you got to go overseas. This is the only opportunity that's going to get us out of this.
mm, mhm,
And so he ended up doing that. And I ended up started building my business,
mhm,
raised the kids, going back and forth to Dubai, back and
mhm,
forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then I will never forget when my son, he's the youngest, and I said, okay, I've been going back and forth all these years. I
mhm,
said, God, you've been protecting us. You have gotten us this far. We've gotten out of the situation. I raised my children. They understood that we were a global family.
mhm,
We had global conversations. They knew mommy and daddy traveled the world. They knew that mommy eventually needed to go live in Dubai to continue to expand and do what I needed to do. So when he graduated, I had said probably about 2 weeks before, and a couple of times, maybe off and on, I said, when he graduates, I'm going to go and I'm going to I'm going to get a longer contract. God is going to give me a contract that's going to pay for my housing, my car, my food, everything. And I'm just going to go there. And then
yeah.
he's going to tell me what I'm supposed to be there for. The day my son graduated, I checked my email and I got the job. I got a
Um,
contract. I got a contract the day he graduated,
mhm,
that day. And
yeah.
that's when I said, okay. So I went to, and I said, oh God, what am I going to do? I got to leave in 2 weeks. It was like, you got to go. I wasn't prepared for 2 weeks. And so I went to my husband. He was like, this is what you wanted to do. And I went to my children and they said, Mommy, you raised us. You did everything. So now it's time for you to go live your dreams. And that was it. I was like, oh, but I was glad that I didn't have those children who were selfish, you know,
Yes.
because they could have been selfish, and because we did make a lot of sacrifices. So it showed me that they saw the sacrifices that we made along the way, and said, now it's your turn. And
Yeah.
so I ended up going to Dubai, living for 6, 7 years, no, almost 7 years.
Mhm,
And I went over there and said, God, what you want me to do? Now, do you want me still to do business over here? What am I supposed to do? And I ended up getting some contracts working in some school systems to help with their special needs program
yeah.
because mental health really wasn't, quote unquote, said it was really mental health. And just ended up working in mental health, helping them with the mental health system within their schools, helping them structure
Mhm,
special needs. But
mhm,
I still wanted to do business. And I always share this with people because I wanted to do business. Right? not what God told me to do.
Right.
Right. And
Mhm.
so I was struggling to figure out, I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. I was like, why am I so stressed? I would go do business and I would go do this contract with mental health. Right.
Mhm.
And I was
Mhm.
like, what is going on? And then one day, I just will never forget. I woke up in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock. He said, you're not doing what I told you to do. If you do what I tell you to do, then you won't have to look anymore. You won't have to search for contracts. You'll have peace.
Mhm.
And at that moment, Dr. Princess Swumi Hancock, I had a conversation with her. She's my mentor as well. She said, you need to sit yourself down somewhere. she said, she was like, I don't know why you keep on trying to do this old business stuff. You did it. You just need to leave it alone. God has something else for you. You just need to sit yourself down. And she had been telling me that. And finally I said,
Mhm.
I'm gonna stop being hard headed. I'm gonna be obedient.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop trying to write this business plan or write my plan and my journey, what I think I'm supposed to have.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna sit myself down and I'm gonna listen and allow God to download to me. And
Mhm.
once He did that, and I set myself down,
Mhm.
I probably 2 weeks later, I became the director of international operations in Pakistan.
Mhm.
Then I had the opportunity to work in India, and these contracts and opportunities just kept coming to me, and I
Mhm.
didn't have to look for anything.
Mhm.
And he said, "It's coming to you because now you're doing what I'm asking you to do."
Mhm.
And so I started to focus more on the mental health side and stayed in that. And
Yeah.
then he said, that's your journey. So if you remember what I told you, I was struggling, right, with mental health.
Mhm.
I was supposed to always been doing mental health.
Mhm.
I wanted to do the business, and that's why I struggled and was so stressed
Mhm.
during those times.
Mhm.
And now I'm at peace because now I'm able to help children. I know what it's like for a teenager to say she's depressed. I know what it's like for a
Mhm.
teenager to say that I have anxiety or that I have suicidal thoughts, and people are, you're worried about judgment. I now, it's different when someone comes to you and says, I can help you, and they've had that experience,
Mhm.
because I can genuinely say, I know how you feel, and
Mm.
not say, right, I know exactly what you're going through. I
Yeah.
can tell when you're hiding. And
Mhm.
so now, because I've shared my story, I've been able to work with a lot of teenage girls,
Mm.
also boys, as well as even some adults. And what's happening right now is that I'm finding that there's a lot of women who are high achieving women, right? Like me, flying
Mhm.
all over the country, right? People thinking we're doing really great, but in
Mhm.
the inside, we hurting, right?
Yeah.
And we in pain, and we have this smile. And
Mhm.
so I have a group that I had in Dubai. It was called Spoken Circle. And
Yeah.
now, I get on conference calls as of last week because God said, that's what you need to do. And I teared up because I thought it was going to be one person on there. I said, okay, God, you told me to be obedient and get on this call. Where are the people? Right?
Mhm.
Then all
Mhm.
of a sudden, I didn't realize it was on mute. It was
Mm.
so many people on that call, and women who were like in VP, businesses, and had all these contracts. And so
Mm.
for me, that was another sign that I just need to continue my journey and be obedient, because
Yes.
and just continue to help and support. And now, because I shared my story, I don't have to hide anymore. And I
Mm.
can just freely say what happened, because I'm sure I'm like other people, is that you see me, now I'm working on this PhD, and you knew that I've been doing all these businesses, and now you'll see me posting on all these countries. But when I share my story about suicide, I thought people would judge me.
Mm.
I thought they would judge me. I really did. I thought they would judge me. And I just said, I don't want to do this. And it was the opposite, because I found that there were so many other women who
Yes.
are, and teenagers who were going through now the same thing when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Or there are women who are like, I really want to share my story, but I'm so scared.
Yeah.
But because I know how I saw you as
Mm.
this woman who was so successful, and I wanted to be you, and to
Mm.
know that you struggle and had depression and anxiety and
Mm.
all of these thoughts like I did, then I
Mm.
know that it's okay for me to share my story so I can save someone else, and so that I can inspire someone else. And that's what I continue to do.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I must say that before talking to you, the thing that I would have the thing that I would have wanted to have focused on was biblical business strategies, how
Hmm.
we navigate as Christian business people, how
Uh-huh.
but I'm quite glad that you've taken us this direction in talking about, the unveiling what's within, because
Mhm.
the business aspect, yes, Christians can, and should be
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, as the apostles, having that
Mhm.
mindset and spirit. But you see,
That's
what
right.
does humanity really need? We're talking
Mhm.
about truth.
Right.
We're talking about transparency. We're talking about keeping things so completely real and unveiling so that people can
Mhm.
hear. And
Mhm.
I think that really is the foundation to so many things. Once we can really
Mhm.
heal from inside, on
Mm.
take off the all the lemon, say lemon, sorry,
Mhm.
onion,
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
onion layers,
That's right. Pull it.
and
Yeah.
so we
Peel
can
it
get
back.
to the core and
Mhm.
find that, that treasure that's within, and then from there
Mhm.
build, and from there God can do something amazing. I think it's amazing. It's so, your mindset and your sort of your approach to business, or your approach to helping people find success,
Mhm.
is so important. It's
Thank
so
you.
important. But most of the time, people cover it up, don't they? People want to mask it. People want to
Mhm.
give the perception
Right.
of success. But success
No.
really
Mhm.
is at the core of what you're doing. You need
That's
to go
true.
into the core and have
Mhm.
that personal success with God, with yourself, the oneness, the holistic completion.
Mhm. That's
Um,
right. You're right.
in your spirit, and you reconnecting with God. And I can go as
Mhm.
far as to say that might be some of the hindrances that people have when it comes to totally accepting their salvation
Oh,
promise,
absolutely.
totally accepting who they are, and just embracing that as what it is, the essence of
It
what it
is.
is, and that the outside perception is not necessarily success. It's a
Right.
facade. It's a
Mhm.
fitting
Ooh,
into the stage of the world that the system has created.
that's right.
And so
You're
therefore,
right.
so which
You're
means
right.
it's a facade.
Mhm.
The
You're
outward
right.
success is a facade.
That was me. I mean, that's
Yeah,
how I could look. I could say yes. That was me.
yeah, yeah.
No,
So
it
that,
really
that's
was.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it
Tell
was.
us, can you tell me? I mean, obviously, this being a Christian program, one of the things that I really want to see, how do you help people from the Christian perspective, as far as the spiritual aspect, how to
Mhm.
really, because obviously now they've come out and they said, this is me,
Mhm.
this is me, good, bad, warts and all, this is me. I
Mhm.
accept that.
Mhm.
But then they now need to build themselves spiritually, to
Mhm.
have that solid foundation, that platform in which to build the rest of their life on. So how do you deal with
Mhm.
the build up again in reconnecting them to their source?
For me, I I'm unique, like you said. I'm a little unique. I really am because when I found I believed in God. I knew God was taking me on my journey. I knew when I jumped on that plane in Dubai, didn't speak Arabic, didn't know where I was going, didn't have friends, just there. Okay. I knew
Wow.
that was God. I did know that. But again, I thought I knew how to pray, but I didn't know how to pray. I found that I didn't. And so I took the things that I learned while I was in the Middle East. The Middle East is really where I found my faith.
Yeah.
It's no, I would never ever to say that. I went to church. Yes, my grandmother took me to church. I read my Bible. But my faith became stronger when I was there, and
Mm,
it's because I work with different women, in different religions, and going to the mosque and going to church. And we had church in Dubai.
mm,
Just seeing the different things is that I was doing that so I can gather myself for when I did come across women who were like me.
mm.
And what if they also didn't know how to pray? Or what
Yeah.
if they believed in God, but they said, I'm not I don't know what to do. I'm struggling. And so I was that person. And so while I was in the Middle East, that's when I was able to really gather myself. And so now when women come to me, I don't like to put a lot of pressure on them because you just never know where they are. And so a lot of times, just like you were here to talk to me about business, usually people do because that's what people saw me as, right? And all the time. And so when they come to me, it's usually another woman or men, and they'll say, I have this business, and I'm really trying to get it off the road, and they're just all excited. I want to put it in Dubai, right?
Mm.
And I say, you know what? Let's just get to know each other.
Yeah.
Let's just talk.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, this is my session that I paid for. And I said, oh no, just don't worry about that. We'll get. Well, I'll tell you when we get to the paid sections. Because the thing about it is that I can't move forward with you. Number one, if I don't know you and if I can't connect with you, right?
Mm.
And so if I can't do that, then I'm not going to take your money. Number one, or if I did take it, I'm gonna give it back to you if I feel like I can't.
Mhm.
because I got to be able to speak with you freely. We have to trust each other. You got to be able to trust me enough to share with me what's going on with you. So I told my people are always telling me, they're laughing at me because they say, God is going to be, you're going to be the person that God's going to say, you got to help people find their purpose. And I'm like, that's not me. I'm not helping anybody find their purpose. Right? That's me. But guess what? That's usually what happens regardless. Right. And so now when women come to me, we have a conversation in the beginning, getting to know each other. And truthfully, you probably should go into, the next step of business. But if I feel like that first one was just like, I don't know, I feel like you're hiding something. Usually by that third time, they've shared their journey with me and I shared mine. And
Mm.
once I can share my journey, you have the connection. And
Mm.
once I can say, do you mind us praying together? I can see
Mm.
where your faith is. So either you're going to tell me, no, I
Mm.
don't want to pray, right? Or this is not what I came for, or yes, please pray for me. Can we pray every time that we come together? Then I know you're my client, right?
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times in business and also as Christians, we want to help everybody. We think God is telling us to help everybody. Everybody is not for us to help.
Mhm.
He will bring the people to you. And so
Mhm.
when I work with women, they come to me and they'll start out the conversation and I'll say, okay, are we talking business today? Or let's see. And if it's that I feel like I'm like, you're going through something, let's just talk about that. I'm not a counselor, right?
Mm.
But I can pray with you. I
Yeah.
could pray for you. I can tell you what I've gone through or somebody else has.
Mm.
And once I get you past that or saying that, maybe you need to get mental health services, a lot of times we don't want to do that. And I have a great friend, sister, who's a therapist, Leslie Garcia of Counseling Space in New York. And she is a counselor for women entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
which we don't see. And she's what still helps me. And so, but to be able to refer people to her because it doesn't feel like therapy,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Then I'm able to refer them to her because I'm not a therapist.
Mhm.
But I still pray for them. We pray together. I'm making sure that they understand that their faith has to be in alignment with their business.
Mhm.
I tell them the mistakes that I made, how I didn't allow God to lead, how I thought I was supposed to be writing my business plan instead of letting him write it, and I thought I was a CEO, but
Yeah.
he is. And so I take them through that journey of saying, we have a little piece of paper. I have
Mhm.
a lady I met with yesterday. I said, well, write out your organization for me. And she had her at the top as CEO. And I said, that's already starting off wrong.
Mhm.
And I said, let's process that, right? And so now we go into, she said, God is my CEO. And we just go through that journey together. That's what you do. But
Mhm.
I have to be able to pray for you. I have to be able to pray with you. I have to feel comfortable in
Yes.
that. And that's what we have to look for in our coaches and mentors.
That's it. I like that. I really do, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, the essence of a person is within them.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I always go back to Moses again when God said, "What have you got in your hand?"
that's
And
right.
when we look at Second Peter 1, verse 3, it says, God has His divine power has given us all that we need for a life of godliness.
Hmm.
And that life of godliness allows production, and it's like a
Yes,
springing forth good things. Everyone
yes.
around you will be blessed. And of
Hmm.
course, as the king priest, you will have all you need.
All you need. That's right.
Fully furnished. And I think that sometimes you find that people have a perception. This is what we said before, the image that you saw somebody
Hmm.
else,
Yes.
CEO, or
Uh
VP,
huh.
see them, and that's the
Yes.
image that we're all going to sometimes. And it's like, no, slow
Ooh,
down,
that's it. Uh
because
huh.
that isn't it.
That's right.
The journey itself is
Is it?
probably more
That's
it.
it. That's it. That's it.
Because in
Oh,
the
that was good. That's
sorry,
good.
that's it. The journey itself is it. And in that journey, there's some things that you will do based on what you have in your hand,
That's right.
all that you brought with you. And I think it's
Hmm.
great that you get to know them and you really
Hmm.
want to find out, draw
Oh
stuff
yeah.
out of them, because most of the time people are looking over there when
Right.
all around them
It's right there in front of
it's
you. But
right
you're right there. That's
there.
right. It is, and I think I wasn't always like this. And I had to be
Mm,
very transparent. If you
mhm.
look at some of my past videos, everything was on business, everything.
Yeah.
You know, and I said that's not it. And then when I said, you know what, I'm just gonna have to. I don't really want to say, oh, I'm helping you find your purpose.
Yeah.
I just want to be the woman that you come to because
Yeah.
you have something that you want to do in your life, right?
Mm,
And you feel stuck, or maybe you feel like you need to expand.
yeah.
But I also want to be the woman that can help you expand and build a business, but I can pray for you.
Yes.
right? And I
Yeah.
and I can share my journey with you, and you can share mine. I can help you tell your story, right?
Yes.
I have women now that come to me like, I just want you to help me to share my story in my. I want to do this within my business, but I don't know how.
Yeah.
And that's and so that's where I am in my life right now. It's not
Yeah.
about the money. I've had I've had people come to me for the different countries and working and stuff like that, and I still work in different countries, but it's for a different purpose now.
That's right. And one of the things that I really get from you is, you spoke about your Christian brethrens back home not really understanding what you were doing and why you were doing it. And
Yeah, it was.
sometimes it's really hard to articulate what God is doing in your life.
Oh, you have no
As
idea.
long as you're, yeah, good. As long as you're clearly hearing His direction and you're in the will of
Hmm.
Him, and everything comes from the heart of the love for Him and the
Hmm.
service and the with the times of the prayer,
Yes.
in your prayer
Hmm.
life, your spiritual growth, your relationship with Him, and everything springs out from that. Then I
So
think it's
important.
fine, because we can't always be able to articulate everything God is doing.
Right. Right.
You can't
You
always,
can't.
but you can
And
see
I
the
couldn't.
fruits. You can see the fruits, right? You can
That's
see
what
the
they would
fruits.
see. Right. They would see. It's so funny you said that because they would see it, but I didn't see it. Isn't that something? Like
That's
people
Anna.
would, really they would come to me and they say, "Oh, you're just so amazing." And I was like, and I was going through this self-sabotage thing where I'll never forget coming off the stage in India. I just got an award, my first
Mhm,
international award,
mhm.
and this lady, they start coming at me after
Yeah.
speaking. I was like, what do they want? Actually have a picture of me putting myself in the corner. I
Uh-huh.
backed in the corner and I was like, I got to get out of here.
Mm.
Because I still, and this was 2017, I still had not seen what other people were seeing,
That's the thing.
you
And now,
know?
had you had been in a position where, not necessarily that you knew it all,
Hmm.
but you trusted in all that He was doing.
Hmm.
And with love, you would still embrace them, not knowing, but you're still just as they come to you, you go
Different.
back to them in love, and you just give,
Exactly.
even
Hmm.
in the lack of knowledge as to why.
Exactly. It was, I just didn't know. So when they were coming, it's like, "You're so amazing." I couldn't
Yeah,
receive. I couldn't receive that. I
yeah,
struggled with receiving. Ooh, I struggled. I'm doing a lot better today than I was, but I definitely had to work on that. But I struggled with receiving because I didn't see what they were seeing. I was still, and still 2000. Can you imagine 2017? Still not really knowing why, God. What is my purpose in it? Why do you keep sending me
mhm.
back to the Middle East? What is it? What do you want me to do? And then finally 2018, after I shared my story, is when the whole everything became clear.
Yes, yes. Identity. That's the thing, really,
That's
here,
it.
isn't
It
it?
is.
It's identity.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I went back to, you look at all these different great people in the Bible, and we think, wow, they did this and they did that and they did this and they did that. But we forget that they didn't do it on their own.
Right.
And as they stand in any platform, they were never on their own. So
Never.
we're pretty much, I look at myself and I think, when people look at me, if anybody was ever to clap, they're actually not clapping for me.
Right.
They're clapping for who
Yes.
I'm with, who I'm
Mhm.
standing with. It's just they don't see them. And the
Right.
minute I stop joining them to clap for him,
Mhm.
I could let them clap me to hell, for goodness sake. We
Right.
have to always remember whose we are, isn't it? To
That's
know
right.
our
Oh.
identity,
Mhm.
stay focused,
That's so true.
I mean, look at the donkey that
Right.
went
Uh-huh.
into
Yes, yes.
Jerusalem with Jesus.
Uh-huh.
Hosanna,
Exactly.
Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So as Jesus was on his back, he happened to be walking on these palm leaves and being celebrated because
White
of
woman.
who was with him. And I think a lot of people
And I know.
run and say, yes, Christians should be entrepreneur, yes.
Yes.
But it's understanding who we are,
Yes.
what have we got in our hand,
Mhm.
who is with us,
And we
and what is
struggle with that so much.
that's it. And accepting that even with the limitation of what we have,
Mhm.
it's a great deal when we give it all to God. When we are aware of
Mhm.
it, when we accept that what we
Yes.
have is something, and that
Exactly.
God is with us, so we have everything.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not where you think, you know.
Yeah,
Mine was outside of the country. I found my purpose and what I was supposed to do. My assignment was outside of this country. And it
yeah,
still is today.
yeah,
Everything that comes to me has to do with an international opportunity. I probably only get today maybe 2% of contracts, people asking me to do something here, unless it's like individual people.
Yeah.
Or, I have two corporations that I'm working with now, but usually everything's outside the country because that's my assignment. And I say that to people because a lot of times we're always looking right around us.
Yeah.
And we need to really look and say, you know what, God, just tell me where you want me to go.
That's it.
And he told me to go to the Middle East. I
Yeah.
went to the Middle East, and I thank God, because not only did it save my family, it saved me.
Yes, praise the Lord. And I know recently you became the vice president for African Entrepreneur Network. Tell us
Yes.
about that. How did you feel when you heard that, and how did that all come about?
Oh, so I'm so glad you said that. So, being consistent and being present is key. And also, you just never know who's watching you. And
Yeah.
so, um, Coach Herbert, he actually reached out to me on Instagram and said, Wendy, are you back in the US? And I'm thinking, I don't even know you. That's because I didn't know him. I didn't know he was following me. I had no clue. He said, are you back in the US? And I was like, yes. He was like, I really need to talk to you. And then finally, he just he said, I've been following you for years. And God has told me to follow you for
Praise.
years. And so when I read that, I said, okay, I need to be obedient, because some people would have been like, oh, I'm blocking you. I don't know who you are, right? But
Mm,
God said, nope, you answer back.
yes.
And so I answered. I got on a call with him, and he told me he's been following me for years. And people have been doing that a lot lately. They're sitting there just
Mm,
watching me. And he decided to reach out.
yeah.
And he said, so what are you doing right now? He said, we have some girls that are over in South Africa, and we have people who want to be entrepreneurs. And I know you can lead. I know
Mm,
you can lead us. And I
mm,
was like, me? And then, I be honest, and this just happened probably 6 months ago.
mm,
And he said, yes, you.
mm,
Yes, you. And so I ended up talking to him. We are now working on doing the expo in South Africa, as
mm,
well as I became the vice president, first vice president for the advisory board.
mm,
And so now we'll be helping women, also men, young girls, to help them start businesses like
mm.
we know God told us to do.
Yes.
Guess what? But it's in a different country. You see, so I like people to hear that it's in a different country. Doesn't mean I have to serve here, as long as I serve.
Yes.
And so when he asked me to be very transparent, I usually say, I don't know, but I said yes. I
Mm,
said yes to the first thing, to be on his board. And then after that, he said, okay, now I need you to be the vice president of the board. And mind you, he really doesn't know me. He just knows what he's seen, but he's trusting God.
yeah.
God told him to do that, right? So now I
Yes.
became the vice president of the board. And now I'm helping with the expo. And each time he will say to me, you are our leader. You will change lives. And
Amen.
so for me, that is when I said, I will commit to this organization. And
Yes.
so that's what I'm doing today. And because I
Mm,
know it was a God divine purpose, and it
yeah.
is it's what I'm supposed to do.
Yes. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely
Thank
amazing.
you.
I completely get you. And I like what God's doing in your life.
Thank you.
I like the fact that He has trained you, or you've allowed Him to take you through your journey. I know it's
Mhm.
been a tough one, hasn't it? Just
It
letting go of God.
has.
I know.
Absolutely. It's
So,
hard.
you
Yeah.
just, I mean, look at what He's doing with your life,
Hmm.
and look at what
Yes.
He's doing through your life. Second Corinthians 5:7 says we walk by faith and not by sight. And that's what we all need to do, because I think sometimes
Yes.
we look at the past, we look at the image, the programming
Mm,
that that's in front of
right.
us all the time, and we think things should be the way we see it, and how
Right.
God's ways are not
Mm,
our ways.
that's
We
right.
forget that actually
Mm.
He's always doing a new thing.
Always.
Always doing a
Always.
new thing. And
Always.
the way he did it yesterday, and the way he worked with this other person or
Mhm.
whatever, it's not always the way he's going to work
Right.
with us.
Mhm.
And so I love it. I love the way you are literally helping people in their journey as business people, as entrepreneurs. And because, to be honest, we are all our business, if you know what I mean.
Right. That's
We
right.
all
Exactly. Yes.
Aren't
Absolutely.
we? We are our
Yes,
business. Right, it
we
says
are.
mind your own business.
Right, exactly. We are our
And
business.
we're fully furnished. God has given us all that we need, and now we have to manage that.
Yes,
We manage
absolutely.
our members, and these members within us are
Mhm.
the arm, the leg, the mind, the
Right,
words we
exactly.
speak.
We do.
So
Mhm.
so we have to manage ourselves first. So it's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
So tell us, what is it that you're working on now? Is it the African Entrepreneurship Network, or are there other things, or are there any projects that we can look forward to, or how can people generally
Mhm.
follow you?
So I'm on Instagram as well as Facebook.
Yeah,
It's Inspiring Decisions, and then I'm also on LinkedIn as Wendy Alexander, L Alexander. And let's see what we have coming up. We have the Expo in South Africa
yeah,
that'll be coming up in October.
mhm,
And I also work in New Mexico right now doing some mental health services, working with some children
yeah,
and with a system that is actually really struggling. And so we're actually helping going into making sure that they can get their mental health services on tech, basically.
yeah,
And then I still do my consulting with women entrepreneurs to help them to expand their businesses overseas. Because what I found out is still there's not a whole lot of women out there that's doing what I'm doing. And so
mm,
God said, I don't want you to give that up.
mm,
But what's going to happen is you're going to find women who either feel like they're stuck or
mm,
either feel like they're like, this is it, this is all I want to do. And then
mm.
I'm supposed to help them take them further and show them that there's other opportunities outside of their own country,
Yes.
whether it's in mental health or as a business or as in both.
Mm,
And so right now, I've really been building those programs, and always people come to me because I had a course called doing business overseas, and so
mm,
I did it last year in November. But prior to that, I hadn't done it in 5 years.
mm,
And so I was supposed to come out this year, and everybody's like, well, last year, and people are like, well, wait a minute, when's the next one coming? And I was like, I need y'all to understand God's timing. But guess what? I used to put out a course, just put it out. Okay, all right, y'all ready? Let's go. And now I'm like, when it's time, God will tell me when it's time. Because every time I think it's time, He gives me something, another tool. And if
mm.
I would have done it too soon, I wouldn't have that tool to be able to share
Yeah.
when it's time for that to come out. So that's what I'm also working on is that class, which will be an online class, but also it'll be a in-person piece as well. And so that's
Mm.
what I'm working on, and hopefully
Awesome.
finish, write a book and his PhD as well.
You're amazing.
Finish his
Absolutely.
PhD.
You're literally a woman with different strings doing different things, and it's
I have
amazing.
to. I
Okay,
have
so,
to. Yeah.
like we've got Mother's Day over here. We're celebrating
Yeah,
Mother's Day tomorrow,
that's right.
and
Yes.
yeah, one of the things that really is heavy in a lot of mothers' minds are their children.
Hmm.
How do they bring up godly children? Children, who don't have this baggage that
Mm-hmm.
many are struggling to shake. I know you are a successful mother as well.
Have
So could
to.
you tell us? I know that you work with young as well as the old, from the teenage all the way through to
Hmm.
adults. What is it that we need to be doing with our children now so
Ooh.
they can, what are the main things that you can give as an advice to the mothers out there that they can use, when they're bringing up their children, so their children can grow to be rounded, individuals that know who they are and can start their life on a wonderful springboard, moving towards their God's given plan for their lives. So what do they need to be doing?
To be present.
Mm,
To be present. And to listen. Because
yeah.
I find that our lives can be so busy as mothers. We take on a lot. We really do. And for me, when for my children, we have an open relationship. My husband and I've been married now for 27 years. So my daughter is 25, and then my son is 23.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this global thing for a long time.
Yeah.
But we also made sure that we had a communication. We talked to our children. This is what we're going to do. How do you feel? Every step of the way. How do you feel? If they didn't feel like, they said, Mommy, I don't want you to go overseas, I would have done it. Daddy, we really miss you. They never did that. They were never selfish, and I thank God for that. And so when it came time for us, when they, to raise them, we always said you have one job, and the one job is where you go to school. and then we ask for you to pray.
Mm.
Okay, that's it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything else. You know, and my children every single year were on the honor. They was in the honor society honor roll. Mind you, that both of their parents were traveling the world, right?
Mm.
But
Mm.
God kept us together. He covered us. And but
Yes.
because we talk to our children, and that's another thing, I feel like as parents, we don't talk to our children. We don't ask them, what's really going on, and not by text. Technology right now, it scares me because I feel like we can use that sometime. Think about it. You could say, "Hey, how you doing today?"
Mm.
And your child, "I'm fine," and really be able to try to commit suicide. Because I
Mm.
know because I know a couple of kids who's done that, right? They're actually doing it right now, right? But they're getting help now. But that's what they were doing. And the parents, I had no idea.
Mm.
And I said, "Well, how present were you? Were
Yes.
you listening? Did you
Yes.
have the conversation? Did you say, 'Listen, stop texting me, come in here and let's talk?'
Yeah.
Or did you just take the text message because you were too busy?" Right? It's not right. And I need to get this done. I got to get dinner done, right? All those things. And so when we were raising our kids, we always told them they can come talk to us about anything. It didn't matter. Nothing you can not talk to us about. And so we've always had this open conversation. They went on to school. My daughter graduated cum laude. And mind you, we were overseas.
Mm.
Both of my husband and I were living in the Middle East, and our children were here in the United States. And for them to be able to graduate at the top of their class,
Mm.
right? The top of their class, no house parties, right? The house didn't burn down either. And to be able to do that, it showed me because we do question ourselves as parents, right? Are we doing the right thing? Am I a good mother? You
Mm.
know? And so when, as time went on, I always said to them, I said, please just always be open with me. I didn't share my journey with my children until I shared it with everyone else because I was afraid also. And
Mm.
once I shared my journey with them, they understood their mother a little bit better. And so
Mhm.
being honest with your children, right? Now, I
Yeah.
wish I would have done it a little bit sooner, to be honest.
Mhm.
And so what I can say for parents who do have a past, right? A trauma, whatever it was, you'd be surprised at how much it will help your child.
Yeah.
Because when my child was going through something and struggling,
Mm.
they weren't scared to come tell me because they knew mommy had went through it, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
mommy felt a little depressed. Okay, it's okay to feel depressed.
Yeah.
It's okay to have anxiety because mommy told me she did. And so
Yes.
I'm grateful to God that I was able to do that. But it's so important for us to communicate. It's so important for us to
Yeah.
listen.
I
But
totally
most
agree.
but be present. If we're
Yeah,
not
I
present, then what,
totally
what are you
agree
gonna do?
with what you said as far
Yeah.
as all the issues that you
Mm,
would need to hide from your children to give a perception of perfection.
absolutely.
You really do need to because we're sometimes it's generational spirits as well.
Oh, it
And
is.
if you can't
It
unveil,
is.
if
Yes.
you can't tear down the veil of that
Right. Uh-huh.
and
Tear it
expose it
down.
for what it is,
Hmm.
then they will be
Right.
wondering, why am I going through this? Why does this keep
Hmm.
happening to me? And then when you've dealt with it, they've got something to pray about. They've got something to hold
Exactly.
their prayers. They've got something to cast and bind. They know how to deal with it. Or
Exactly.
together, you can all do it.
Exactly.
So
It's
it's
important.
so important, isn't it?
It really
Oh,
is.
time has run out, but it's been
It,
absolutely wonderful
you
to
too.
have you on the show.
Thank
I
you
look
so
forward to
much.
it's my pleasure. I look forward to everything that you're doing, and people out there, please go out and support everything that she's doing. In fact, you're supporting yourself, to be honest with you. Connect with her, and join whatever she's doing, and I'm sure that you'll be surely blessed. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much again. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
All right.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
God bless you now. Bye.
Bye bye.
Wow, what an amazing guest that I've had today. And I believe that we've all learned so much as she has, been able to share her life journey with us and just what she does. She's a high achiever and a champion to many. So it's well worth watching it back again, sharing it with those that you care about, and just helping as many people as you can to come out of the lies that the enemy sells to them that can actually keep them bound for years. So that's it for me today. And I look forward to some more Limitless same time next week at same time, same place. And until then, goodbye and God bless you. Limitless is a motivational talk show where I interview celebrities to find out what is the secret to their success. So make sure you join me every Saturday at 10 a.m. on LCBN TV.